got fired after showing up 10 minutes late even though I worked 70 hours per week, I made him regret. It was one of those mornings where everything seemed to conspire against me. My alarm clock, usually reliable as the sunrise itself, decided to betray me by staying silent 15 minutes past its scheduled time. The traffic lights on my usual route turned into an endless parade of reds, each one stretching longer than the last, mocking my frantic attempts to make up for lost time. By the time I reached the office building, a mere 10 minutes beyond my usual arrival, I could already feel the weight of impending doom pressing down on my shoulders. You see, in our corporate world, 10 minutes late might as well be an eternity. Our company prided itself on punctuality. It was practically engraved in golden letters above the entrance alongside our mission statement. Time is money, they'd say, and while I understood the sentiment, I couldn't help but wonder if anyone truly realized how much time we were all actually dedicating to this place. For the past year, I'd been averaging 70 hours per week, often skipping meals and sacrificing weekends to meet deadlines that seemed to multiply like rabbits. I remember walking through those glass doors, my heart pounding in rhythm with my hurried footsteps. The reception area felt unusually quiet, save for the rhythmic ticking of the wall clock that now seemed to echo louder than ever before. As I approached my desk, I noticed something different about the atmosphere, a tension that wasn't there yesterday. My colleagues' eyes followed me as I passed, their expressions unreadable masks that sent shivers down my spine. Mr. Peterson, our department manager, emerged from his office like a shadow detaching itself from the wall. His face was set in that particular grim expression he reserved for performance reviews and disciplinary actions. Without a word, he motioned for me to follow him back into his office. The short walk felt like crossing a battlefield, each step heavier than the last. As I settled into the chair opposite his desk, I noticed the termination letter already prepared, waiting patiently like a snake coiled to strike. "You know why you're here," he began, his voice carrying that practiced tone of disappointment mixed with authority. "We've discussed punctuality multiple times. This isn't just about being 10 minutes late today, it's about consistency and reliability." His words hit me like physical blows, each syllable echoing against the walls of his sterile office. Despite my protests, despite explaining that my average work hours far exceeded any reasonable expectation, his decision remained firm and unyielding. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had spent countless nights burning the midnight oil, missing family gatherings, and postponing personal plans all in the name of dedication to this company. Yet here I was, being dismissed over a matter of minutes. As I gathered my belongings, the faces of my colleagues told stories of sympathy mixed with relief that it wasn't them facing this fate. The HR representative who accompanied me to clean out my desk maintained a professional distance, her clipboard and forms creating a barrier between us that felt more substantial than any physical wall. Walking out of that building for the last time as an employee felt surreal. The same corridors I'd navigated countless times now seemed foreign, each step taking me further away from a life I'd built over years of relentless effort. The security guard at the exit offered a sympathetic nod, perhaps recognizing the defeated slump of my shoulders or maybe just accustomed to witnessing similar scenes. As I stepped into the elevator, I caught my reflection in the polished metal doors, tired eyes staring back at me, framed by dark circles that spoke volumes about my recent months of sacrifice. The ride down felt interminable, each floor announcement a reminder of how far I'd fallen in such a short time. When the doors finally opened to the lobby, I hesitated, reluctant to face the world outside with nothing but a cardboard box of personal belongings and a termination letter tucked under my arm. The cool air of the street hit me like a slap, jolting me from my reverie and forcing me to confront the reality of my situation. People bustled around me, oblivious to the turmoil brewing inside, while I stood frozen, trying to process how quickly everything had changed. As I wandered aimlessly through the city streets, the weight of injustice burned brighter with each passing minute. Memories flooded my mind, countless weekends spent in the office while others enjoyed their leisure time, emergency calls answered at 3 a.m, project deadlines met only through sheer force of will and sleepless nights. All these sacrifices, reduced to nothing more than a footnote in someone else's narrative of corporate discipline. Something shifted within me during those aimless hours of wandering. The initial shock gave way to a simmering anger that refused to be extinguished. It wasn't just about losing a job, it was about being dismissed without acknowledgement of genuine dedication. The more I thought about it, the more determined I became to prove that my worth couldn't be measured by arbitrary standards of punctuality. Each step I took seemed to solidify this resolve, transforming my despair into a burning need to demonstrate that true value lies not in compliance with rigid rules, but in the quality of work and commitment one brings to the table. By evening, as I sat in a small cafe nursing a cup of coffee, a plan began to form in my mind. The bitterness of unfair dismissal was giving way to a clarity of purpose I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't going to be the end of my story. Instead, it would become the catalyst for something greater. The corporate world had taught me many things, but most importantly, it had shown me exactly what not to do when leading people. The pieces were falling into place, and for the first time since that fateful morning, I felt a spark of excitement rather than resentment. The days that followed were a whirlwind of activity that blurred together in a haze of determination and caffeine-fueled nights. I transformed my tiny apartment into a command center, with whiteboards covering every available wall space and sticky notes creating constellations of ideas across my living room. The first breakthrough came when I realized that my years of experience had given me intimate knowledge of the industry's weak points, areas where innovation was desperately needed but consistently overlooked. I focused on developing solutions that addressed these gaps, leveraging both my technical expertise and the deep understanding of client needs I'd cultivated during long hours at my former company. Financial constraints forced me to get creative. Instead of renting office space, I started working out of local coffee shops and libraries, using free Wi-Fi and public resources to bootstrap my operation. I reached out to former colleagues who had witnessed my dedication and shared my frustration with outdated corporate practices. To my surprise, several of them expressed interest in collaborating, even offering to work for equity rather than immediate compensation. This growing network of supporters became my lifeline, providing not just skills but also moral support during moments of doubt. The real challenge came when I had to present my ideas to potential investors and partners. Each pitch meeting felt like stepping onto a tightrope without a safety net. I remembered every condescending look, every dismissive comment from my former manager, and channeled that energy into proving my capabilities. I developed a presentation style that combined data-driven insights with personal anecdotes, showing how my experiences, including the unjust termination, had shaped my approach to problem-solving and leadership. Social media became an unexpected ally in my journey. I started documenting my experiences, sharing both successes and setbacks with raw honesty. What began as cathartic posts about workplace injustice evolved into a platform for discussing innovative approaches to common industry challenges. The response was overwhelming. Messages poured in from professionals worldwide who had faced similar situations and were inspired by my determination to turn adversity into opportunity. This community support translated into valuable connections and partnerships that accelerated my progress. Perhaps the most significant transformation was internal. The constant rejection and financial strain tested my resolve daily, but each obstacle only strengthened my conviction. I learned to view failure not as a roadblock but as a necessary step in the learning process. The fear that once paralyzed me during performance reviews evolved into a driving force that pushed me to take calculated risks and embrace uncertainty. Every early morning spent refining proposals and every late night troubleshooting technical issues became a testament to my unwavering commitment to proving my worth on my own terms. As my venture gained momentum, I found myself frequently reflecting on conversations with Mr. Peterson during performance reviews. He had always emphasized the importance of structure and protocol, dismissing my suggestions for process improvements as impractical or too risky. Now I saw these interactions in a new light, not as limitations, but as opportunities to innovate. The very frustrations that had once consumed me became the foundation for developing more efficient workflows and employee-friendly policies. I implemented flexible work arrangements, recognizing that productivity shouldn't be measured by hours spent in an office but by actual contributions and results. My approach to team management evolved into something radically different from traditional corporate structures. Instead of rigid hierarchies, I fostered an environment where every team member's input was valued equally, regardless of their position. Regular feedback sessions replaced annual reviews, allowing for continuous improvement and adaptation. The culture I cultivated celebrated initiative and creativity, encouraging team members to pursue their ideas even if they deviated from conventional methods. This approach attracted talented individuals who had grown disillusioned with traditional corporate environments, creating a powerhouse of innovation and dedication. The impact extended beyond our immediate team. Clients noticed the difference in our approach and began recommending us to others who shared our values. Competitors started paying attention, some attempting to replicate our methods, while others dismissed them as unsustainable. Through speaking engagements and industry panels, I found myself advocating for a fundamental shift in how businesses measure success and value their employees. The old adage "time is money" was gradually being replaced with results are currency, and companies began approaching me for advice on implementing similar changes in their organizations. Yet with each success, I remained acutely aware of the responsibility that came with influence. The power dynamics I had once fought against now placed me in a position to effect real change. I made it a point to personally mentor young professionals, particularly those who had experienced similar injustices in their careers. These mentoring sessions became sacred spaces where experiences were shared, lessons learned, and confidence rebuilt. Many of these ments went on to implement progressive policies in their own workplaces, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond what I could have achieved alone. The nights grew shorter as my schedule filled with meetings, negotiations, and strategic planning sessions. Each day brought new challenges that tested my resolve and expanded my vision. Where once I had struggled to meet impossible deadlines, I now orchestrated complex projects with precision timing. The skills honed during those 70-hour weeks transformed from survival mechanisms into powerful tools for growth and innovation. What surprised me most was how naturally leadership came to me when freed from the constraints of traditional corporate structures. Our small startup began attracting attention from major players in the industry. Venture capitalists who had initially dismissed my unconventional approach returned with renewed interest, intrigued by our consistent growth and unique methodology. Industry leaders invited me to speak at conferences, eager to understand how we managed to achieve such remarkable results with limited resources. Each invitation was an opportunity to share not just business strategies, but a philosophy of work that prioritized human potential over arbitrary metrics. The pressure mounted as we prepared for our next phase of expansion. Key decisions about scaling operations and maintaining our core values kept me awake at night, weighing the implications of each choice. Would growth dilute our mission? Could we maintain the personal touch that had become our trademark? These questions haunted me as I paced my office late into the night, the city lights below casting long shadows across my desk. Yet amid these challenges, a profound sense of purpose emerged, a clear understanding that this journey wasn't just about proving a point, but about fundamentally reshaping how businesses could operate with integrity and authenticity. During this period of rapid growth and increasing recognition, I encountered numerous moments that tested both my principles and my patience. One particular incident stood out. A major corporation attempted to acquire our startup, offering a sum that would have secured my financial future for generations. The offer came wrapped in promises of continued autonomy and influence, yet something about their approach felt unsettlingly familiar. Their executives spoke of streamlining our processes and aligning our culture with theirs, phrases that echoed the very corporate jargon I had once despised. While navigating these complex negotiations, I received an unexpected message from Mr. Peterson himself. He requested a meeting, citing mutual acquaintances as a connection point. Curiosity and caution warred within me as I considered his request. Was this genuine interest in my success, or merely another attempt at control disguised as reconciliation? The thought of facing him again stirred emotions I had worked hard to channel into positive energy, the memory of that termination meeting still fresh despite the passage of time. These encounters forced me to confront difficult questions about forgiveness and redemption. How much of my current success was driven by a desire to prove him wrong, versus a genuine passion for creating meaningful change? The lines between personal vindication and professional achievement blurred with each new milestone we reached. Meanwhile, maintaining our core values amidst increasing scrutiny and temptation became an ongoing battle, one that required constant vigilance and unwavering commitment to our original mission. The meeting with Mr. Peterson took place in an upscale coffee shop downtown, the kind of place where baristas wore bow ties and every espresso shot came with a story about its origin. As I approached the table where he sat, my stomach churned with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. He looked older than I remembered, his once imposing presence now softened by time and perhaps regret. For a moment, I considered turning back, but something, curiosity, pride, or maybe just stubbornness, kept me moving forward. "Thank you for meeting me," he began, his voice carrying that familiar tone of authority, though it wavered slightly at the edges. "I've been following your progress. Quite impressive, really." His words hung in the air between us, heavy with unspoken meaning. I nodded cautiously, waiting for him to continue. "When we let you go, I thought we were doing what was best for the company. But seeing what you've built since then..." He trailed off, his gaze dropping to the untouched coffee cup in front of him. His admission caught me off guard. Part of me had expected excuses or justifications, not this raw acknowledgement of doubt. Yet, as he spoke, I realized that his perspective hadn't fundamentally changed. He still viewed my termination through the lens of corporate necessity, even if he now questioned its wisdom. The realization stirred conflicting emotions within me, a sense of vindication mixed with an unexpected pang of empathy for the pressures he must have faced as a manager. Our conversation stretched on, touching upon industry trends, leadership philosophies, and the evolving nature of work culture. With each topic, I found myself challenging his traditional views, presenting alternative approaches that had proven successful in my own venture. What began as a tense encounter gradually transformed into a genuine exchange of ideas, though the underlying tension never fully dissipated. When we finally parted ways, neither of us had reached any profound resolution, but something significant had shifted in our dynamic. In the weeks that followed, similar encounters multiplied. Former colleagues who had once avoided eye contact during my termination now sought me out, eager to learn about our innovative practices. Some came seeking advice, others job opportunities, and a few simply wanted to express their admiration for how I'd turned adversity into triumph. Each interaction forced me to confront different facets of my journey, the pain of rejection, the thrill of success, and the complex emotions surrounding forgiveness and understanding. One particularly memorable meeting occurred with Sarah, a junior analyst who had witnessed my departure from the company. She confessed that watching me walk out of the office that day had been a pivotal moment in her career. "You were the hardest working person I knew," she admitted over lunch. "Seeing them let you go made me realize I didn't want to build my life around pleasing people who couldn't see real value when it was right in front of them." Her words struck a chord deep within me, reminding me that my experience had resonated far beyond my personal journey. These interactions began reshaping my understanding of influence and impact. While I had initially focused on proving my worth to those who had doubted me, I now recognized that my true legacy lay in inspiring others to question outdated systems and pursue their own paths of innovation. The ripple effect of my journey extended far beyond boardroom victories or financial success. It was creating a movement of change within an industry desperate for evolution. Yet, amidst these revelations, new challenges emerged that tested my resolve in unexpected ways. A major client threatened to pull their business unless we adopted more traditional project management methods. Several team members expressed concerns about maintaining our core values while scaling operations. And through it all, the persistent question lingered: how much of my drive stemmed from proving Mr. Peterson wrong, and how much from authentic passion for creating meaningful change? As I navigated these complexities, I found myself increasingly drawn to documenting not just our successes, but the struggles and lessons learned along the way. What began as casual blogging evolved into a comprehensive platform for sharing insights about building sustainable businesses while maintaining human-centered values. The response was overwhelming. Professionals from various industries reached out, sharing their own stories of overcoming corporate injustice and seeking guidance on creating positive change within their organizations. This growing community became both a source of strength and a mirror reflecting my own journey. Through their stories, I recognized patterns in my behavior and decision-making that needed addressing. The anger that had initially fueled my determination was transforming into something more constructive, a deep commitment to fostering environments where dedication and innovation were valued above arbitrary metrics. Yet with each step forward, new questions arose about balancing growth with authenticity, profit with purpose, and success with integrity. The landscape of opportunities before me continued to expand, each path offering its own set of promises and perils. Venture capitalists presented tempting offers that could accelerate our growth exponentially, yet each proposal came with strings attached that threatened our core values. Industry conferences invited me to keynote speeches, providing platforms to share our philosophy with wider audiences, but these appearances required time away from hands-on leadership. Partnerships with established corporations offered access to resources and networks we desperately needed, yet they also carried the risk of diluting our unique approach. Meanwhile, my relationship with former colleagues evolved in unexpected ways. Some had risen to prominent positions within our old company and now sought collaborations that would have been unthinkable months earlier. Others quietly reached out, confessing their dissatisfaction with the very system I had escaped, seeking advice on navigating their own career transitions. These interactions revealed a corporate world in flux, where traditional power structures were beginning to crack under the weight of changing expectations and emerging alternatives. Particularly striking was the emergence of a grassroots movement within our industry. Young professionals, inspired by our journey, began organizing informal networks to support each other in challenging outdated practices. They shared strategies for negotiating flexible work arrangements, documented instances of unfair treatment, and collaborated on developing new approaches to common workplace issues. Watching this movement gain momentum filled me with both pride and responsibility. These individuals looked to us not just as a successful startup, but as pioneers in a broader cultural shift. Yet, with this growing influence came increasingly complex ethical dilemmas. How do we maintain our authenticity while becoming the very example of success we once criticized? What does true leadership look like when you're no longer fighting against a system, but helping to create a new one? These questions haunted my late-night reflections, mingling with memories of early mornings spent in empty office buildings and weekends sacrificed for projects that seemed meaningless in hindsight. The most challenging aspect proved to be managing my own emotional response to these developments. Each milestone achieved, each recognition received, brought a mixture of satisfaction and unease. Was I becoming too comfortable in this position of influence? Had I truly moved beyond the need to prove anything to anyone, including Mr. Peterson? These introspections often led to sleepless nights spent pacing my office, the city lights below casting long shadows across walls covered with whiteboards documenting our next phase of growth. Through it all, the memory of that termination meeting remained vivid, not as a source of bitterness but as a touchstone for measuring how far we'd come. The rigid protocols, the dismissive attitudes, the blind adherence to arbitrary standards, all these elements of corporate culture we had left behind now served as cautionary tales rather than sources of resentment. Our journey had become less about revenge and more about redemption, not just for myself but for everyone who had ever felt undervalued by a system that failed to recognize true dedication. As we prepared to launch our most ambitious project yet, a comprehensive platform for reimagining workplace dynamics, I found myself standing at a crossroads. The decisions ahead would shape not just our company's future, but potentially influence industry standards for years to come. Each choice carried weight, not just in terms of business impact, but in maintaining the integrity of everything we had built. The pressure mounted with each passing day, yet alongside it grew a profound sense of purpose, a clear understanding that this journey wasn't just about personal vindication, but about creating lasting change in how businesses operate and value their people. The complexity of our situation deepened as we entered negotiations with multiple stakeholders simultaneously. Venture capitalists pressed for aggressive expansion plans while insisting on traditional performance metrics. Industry partners proposed collaborations that would significantly boost our market presence but required compromises on our flexible work policies. Meanwhile, our growing team grappled with the challenges of scaling our unique culture without losing its essence. Each discussion, each decision point, forced me to balance immediate opportunities against long-term vision, practical considerations against philosophical principles. During this period, I received an unexpected invitation from our former company, now facing declining employee satisfaction and increasing competition from more progressive firms. They requested a private consultation, hoping to learn from our success in creating a supportive work environment. The irony wasn't lost on me. The very organization that had dismissed me for being 10 minutes late now sought guidance on employee engagement. This request triggered intense internal conflict, forcing me to confront whether helping them would represent closure or compromise. Simultaneously, media attention intensified as our story gained national recognition. Journalists portrayed our journey as a David versus Goliath narrative, highlighting how a single act of corporate injustice had sparked an industry-wide movement. While flattering, this narrative oversimplified the complex reality of our growth and the nuanced challenges we faced daily. Balancing public perception with operational realities became another layer of complexity in our decision-making process. Team dynamics also evolved as we onboarded new members who hadn't experienced the initial struggle that had bonded our original group. Integrating fresh perspectives while preserving our foundational values required constant communication and adaptation. Some veterans expressed concern about losing the intimate, mission-driven atmosphere that had characterized our early days, while newcomers pushed for more structured approaches to accommodate our growing size and scope. Amidst these challenges, technological advancements presented both opportunities and threats. Artificial intelligence solutions promised efficiency gains, but raised questions about maintaining human connection in our processes. Competitors began adopting similar progressive policies, sometimes copying our approaches verbatim. The pressure to innovate while protecting our intellectual property added another dimension to our strategic planning. Financial considerations grew increasingly complex as well. Profitability targets clashed with our commitment to equitable compensation and work-life balance initiatives. Investors questioned the sustainability of our approach, while customers praised our ethical stance. Each quarterly report became a tightrope walk between demonstrating financial health and maintaining our social responsibility commitments. Perhaps most challenging was managing my own role in this expanding enterprise. The hands-on leadership style that had served us well in the early days needed adaptation as we scaled. Delegating authority while maintaining our distinctive culture required developing new management skills and trusting others to carry forward our mission. This transition tested not just my capabilities, but my willingness to evolve as a leader. Through all these challenges, the memory of that termination morning continued to serve as both motivation and warning. It reminded me daily that success isn't measured by external validation but by staying true to core values, even when, especially when, it's difficult. Each obstacle we faced became an opportunity to demonstrate that our approach wasn't just idealistic but practical, sustainable, and scalable. Yet with each success, the stakes grew higher, and the responsibility heavier, as we shaped not just our own future but potentially the future of workplace culture itself. The landscape of possibilities stretched before us like an intricate web, each strand representing a potential path forward, each intersection a decision point laden with consequences. Major technology firms approached us with partnership offers that promised unprecedented access to cutting-edge tools and vast user bases. Government agencies sought our expertise in developing modern workplace regulations. Educational institutions proposed collaborations to integrate our methodologies into their business curricula. Each opportunity shone brightly, promising growth, recognition, and influence, yet each carried the risk of diluting our core identity. Internal dynamics grew increasingly complex as well. Our original team members, who had weathered the storm of uncertainty in our early days, now found themselves mentoring new recruits who brought fresh perspectives but lacked personal connection to our founding struggle. This generational divide within our ranks created both friction and opportunity. While some veterans worried about losing our edge, many newcomers injected energy and innovation into our processes. Managing this delicate balance became a daily exercise in diplomacy and vision alignment. The public narrative surrounding our journey continued to evolve, sometimes uncomfortably diverging from our lived reality. Documentaries and business profiles painted us as crusaders against corporate tyranny, while in truth, our mission had always been more nuanced, about creating better alternatives rather than simply opposing existing systems. This discrepancy between public perception and internal reality forced us to become more intentional about our messaging, leading to the development of comprehensive communication strategies that accurately reflected our values and aspirations. Technological advancements presented both existential threats and transformative opportunities. Artificial intelligence tools that could automate many of our processes tempted us with promises of efficiency, yet raised fundamental questions about the human element in our work. Blockchain technologies offered new ways to ensure transparency and equity in our operations, but implementing them required navigating complex regulatory landscapes and overcoming technical challenges. Each technological decision became a philosophical debate about what kind of future we wanted to help create. Financial considerations grew more sophisticated as we matured. Traditional revenue models clashed with our commitment to fair pricing and accessible services. Investment opportunities came with conditions that challenged our independence. Tax implications of our global expansion created legal puzzles that required expert navigation. Every financial statement told multiple stories, of success, of sacrifice, of strategic positioning, and interpreting these narratives correctly became crucial to our continued growth. Meanwhile, our influence extended beyond direct business operations into broader societal discussions about work-life balance, mental health in professional settings, and the future of employment. Policymakers sought our input on labor laws, educators incorporated our case studies into their syllabi, and social movements embraced our story as evidence of necessary change. This expanded role brought both gratification and pressure. The knowledge that our decisions now impacted lives far beyond our immediate sphere of influence weighed heavily on every choice we made. Personal relationships within the leadership team evolved as well. The camaraderie forged through shared struggle transformed into professional partnerships that required clear boundaries and defined roles. Friendships tested by differing visions for the future had to be renegotiated in light of our growing responsibilities. The emotional intensity of our early days gave way to more measured, strategic interactions, though the underlying bonds remained strong and supportive. Through all these layers of complexity, the fundamental question persisted: how do we scale our impact without losing our soul? Each success brought new challenges, each solution created new questions, each milestone revealed new horizons. The journey had transformed from a personal quest for vindication into a collective mission for meaningful change, yet the core challenge remained unchanged: to prove that dedication and innovation could thrive outside traditional constraints, that true value lies not in compliance with arbitrary standards but in creating systems that honor human potential and foster genuine growth. The road ahead stretched infinitely, each turn promising both peril and possibility, each decision point demanding wisdom and courage. We stood at the threshold of something greater than ourselves, knowing that our choices would shape not just our destiny but potentially the future of work itself.